Hello, everyone. Welcome to NuPath Live. My name is Dan Harris. I'm President and CEO of NuPath, and I am your host for this broadcast. And this is the special time that we set aside each week to find out what's going on and to honor the people that are connected with NuPath. And we've got an interesting kind of episode for you today. Part of it is we had to record yesterday due to timing of our second guest. Um, and as of about 10 o'clock last night, my first guest was not aware she was going to be joining us today. And that is because I read some emails late in the evening and I came across an email singing her praise. And I thought, we're going to move some things around and we're going to talk to this special woman during NuPath Live. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it and introduce my first guest. And that person is Bessie Tsimba. She's the associate director. She is well known across this organization, having been here for 15 years. We'll be celebrating in October. She has been a guest on previous NuPath Live, well, one on our Unity Forum, and then once on Live. And she's raised over $3,000 in the last few years. And the big thing was she presented at our 2017 annual celebration, and she was terrific. She's thoughtful, kind, caring, devoted, extremely dedicated. People love her. And we're going to bring her on right now and talk to her about how fabulous she is. Bessie Tsimba, welcome to NuPath Live. Are you speechless already? I wanted to make sure we had your sound. You sound like you're well, you didn't know you were going to be on NuPath Live today, but you made time for us. Thank you for being here. Bessie, last night I heard from one of the families that you and your team work with. And I don't know if it's all right to say who, but maybe I'll just leave it that she's a mother. Her son is served through us. And I thought I could read some of the email. I know you've seen it now because it's all I've been talking about. But I wanted to read some of it, and then I thought we'd talk a little bit about your work and the things that you're doing. You guys, well, let me just say to Bessie, since I'm talking to you, Bessie, there are different layers, in my opinion, of positive feedback that we could receive. There's the kind that you get when you ask for it, if you're doing a satisfaction survey, for example. There's the kind of feedback that you get when you've got like an accrediting body like CARF or DDS telling you good things about your employees. The most precious and important and high value praise that I could ever get is that from a family member that's completely unsolicited, not being asked, not being prompted, not being told, that they just take time out of their schedule and make it a point. They're that happy. And that's how I view this email. This is from Leah. She says, Ed and I are ever grateful for the care and support you and NuPath have given to our son with so much kindness, love, and great humor. And then she says, Dan, I wanted to take a moment to let you know the incredible work that Bessie Tsimba is doing. She has created a remarkable team with George and Adriana. Shout out to George and Adriana. They made it in here. And together, they have made so much progress with our son, even in the face of the pandemic. It is directly a result of Bessie's expertise in not only care coordination and team leadership, but also understanding the realities of life for our son in a world in which he lives. She and her team have skillfully and with great care and love, oh, this is so good, worked on every key human dimension to make a happy, confident, and safe feeling individual in our son. They have and continue to foster his curiosity, his creativity, and his sense of community. It is not often, as both my husband and I have experienced, or ex-husband and I have experienced, that you are blessed to have such a magical team with an outstanding leader. Bessie Tsimba, she's talking about you. Um, what do you have to say? We're so grateful. We're so excited. We're so happy. I know we always had such high respect for the work that you're doing, but seeing this in black and white, it's hard to argue. Are you going to be shy on me now? What do you have to? What's your thoughts when you saw that email last night?
I was surprised, not surprised about my work. I think my work can speak for itself, not to brag. but I'm going to do that. It was good of them to do that. I am one person who is very hands-on. I am always in the program. I believe for a program to be successful, as a leader, I have to be there. I have to be behind the staff. For the staff to perform good, I have to be there with them all the way. Um, that's why I always like to be there, to be with them, to support them. And the end result is always good.
Bessie, you don't run just one program. You have multiple responsibilities, don't you? And
Yes.
so part of what you've done here, and I think Leah sees it in her email, the subtext is that you are an experienced and seasoned professional, somebody that's more than just throwing your energies at something, but you understand how to motivate your teams, you know how to hold them accountable. And this is the essence, because even though I know you're the type of person that wants to be in your programs, you cannot be all places at all times. There are times that you have to. I assume you sleep once in a while, and you have a family to care for. But you have empowered the staff in your under your leadership to aspire to your example. And I think that's the thing that's so striking to me in this, um, that you have created, that the credit is really to your leadership for the team, but then to the team that you have created in this case. Um, what unique challenges did you have during the pandemic, as far as working with this particular young man? Um, they mentioned the creativity and curiosity, and what were some of the ways you fostered some of these sorts of sort of higher level sorts of qualities that Leah mentions? Do you have an answer for that?
The challenge is limited to what we could do with him since we could not go out in the community. He is a very outgoing person. He likes to go out in the community, and we could not do that. So, what we did, we implemented activities in the house. He likes cooking, so we involved him a lot into cooking, helping. He likes to help with his meals. We find channels on the TV, cooking channels, and spend more time interacting with him because he talks. So spending more time with him, talking to him, watching programs on the TV with him, that kind of helped a lot during the pandemic.
When we last had you on, I think we were singing your praises for another group of people that in your care. These are the people over at Salem Street. And if I recall correctly, you had ensured that they had a beautiful Easter celebration. You had gone in. I think it was Easter. You had cooked for them. Your own family was wondering, what about us? But you created this loving family, nurturing experience for them. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, that was just another example. And there are just hundreds, I'm sure, of other times where you have, through your very presence, your caring, your devotion, but it's more than those soft, fluffy feelings. Sometimes it's hard, just hard work to fill vacant shifts, to get coverage, to ensure that people are safe, that they're getting their COVID test, that they're going to get vaccinated. All of these things that go into managing the programs that you do. But you've done it with such dignity and such amazing and outstanding success.
Yes, thank you. And it's always important too for your staff to know that you are always there for them, even if physically you are not there, but you are just a phone call away. Whenever they need you, we are ready to. And you talk, even parents too, it's always important to give them assurance. That was the big thing during the uh, pandemic, that I always gave the parents assurance that don't worry, they are okay, we are taking good care of them, everything is okay, because they were not coming to see them. So it was us to fill that gap to assure them that everything is okay, they are well taken care of.
Bessie Tsimba, you're so terrific. I love you to pieces. I wish I could talk to you for another 10 minutes, but unfortunately, we're going to let you go. But you're going to hear more about this. We're going to have a copy of this put in your personnel file, and also for George and Adriana. Thank you. Thank you for your team. Thank you for representing us so proudly and for the work that you're doing to make people's lives better. Take good care of yourself, okay? We'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the kind of email this CEO likes to get. I wish I could get them a lot more often than I do, but I know that good stuff's happening, even if not everybody shares the way that this family did. Now we're going to move on next to our next guest, who the interview we recorded was actually. If Greg's got those pictures, you could pull up. You're going to hear us. I referenced something in the interview yesterday, and I was able to dig up a couple of pictures. The one is the story of Bob taking Kevin fishing at Horn Pond, and that's him holding the, I think it was the trout. And the other is in reference to Patrick, who was the guest yesterday, his love of Chinese food and a special tradition that Bob started with them. Bob is a another beloved employee, been with NuPath many years, 17, I think, and is just a terrific encourager and raised some money at a Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday for NuPath. And we're gonna go hear from him now. Are you happy to be here? Or are you a little like, oh boy, I can't believe I'm on NuPath Live?
I'm happy to be here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Now, there's a reason why, Bob, we tapped you to be guest, and it was said to me that you said, well, I'll do it as long as I can have my buddy Patrick come on with me. So you guys came as a package deal, but that's all the better for us, right?
Correct, correct. Patrick's very important for my life at NuPath.
I understand he is. So, Bob, I became aware of something. I think it was yesterday morning, but maybe it was Monday, probably yesterday morning. The time bleeds all together. That you were at a Super Bowl party over the weekend, and do you want to tell us the story? Because I'll definitely talk about my enthusiasm for. I mean, one of the best Super Bowl. I've never been to a Super Bowl party like that. I can tell you right right now. What was so special about this? Set it up for us and tell the story.
Well, actually, I was on the phone with my friends talking about a Super Bowl party and about the game. And of course, I kind of felt the moment with these guys that I've known forever. One guy was on my little league team. Another guy, our sons played baseball together at a nearby high school. And I said, this is a good time to ask them for a donation because they've, donated in the past. And so in between Super Bowl party, the game, I said, how about donating? Because we need it. We didn't really have a fundraiser last year. And they said, well, come over and get the checks. So that's how that happened. But we were talking about the Super Bowl.
Well, I would say those are pretty good friends to not only let you interrupt them, right at such an important time for football lovers, but to write the checks then and there. None of this. I'll put it in the mail. You're a modest person. I've known you for so many years, Bob. As I said, you've been with us for over 16 years. I've seen you during that time. Your dedication to just servant leadership, working to support others. So I know you're not the kind of in-your-face type, and you're certainly not the type to brag about your accomplishments. But let's just say that the three checks totaled to $1150, if I remember correctly, over $1,000. That's a pretty significant a return on some phone calls.
Yep, and I got another 100 this morning from one of our landscape customers in Reading. And so we're trying to build upon the 1250 now.
Wow, you are going to be a contender, and certainly somebody that's going to be somebody to watch once we we are going to do some sort of fundraiser. We're just not sure what. When we were a year ago, we'd been, I think by about this time, most of us had been, those who chose to be, fully vaccinated with the 2 shots or thereabouts. And then we were all ramping up for a summer of what was it called? A red hot summer, or what was it people were saying? And we thought things were going to be back to normal. And then we were talking about doing our walk in the fall, but that got put off because of the Delta variant, and then everything else that happened since. So we are going to do some sort of a fundraiser. Whether it's going to be a walk exactly or something else, we'll determine that. But I'm glad you're keeping the spirit alive. Patrick, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation, so I'm going to bring you in now and ask you a question. I understand that you have been working with Bob for many years now in the landscaping crew. And the way I hear it tell that you're such a hard worker that you're already going before you can get a mower started. Talk to us about what you do. Talk to us about what you do for NuPath Landscaping. What's a typical day like for you?
Well, I pick up sticks. Yeah.
And the debris.
And the debris. Yeah.
That's a hard job. I hate bending over.
Yeah.
Well, as I tell Patrick, if there's a paper plate on a lawn, I don't want to run over it with the lawnmower and turn it into 5 paper plates. So
Right.
he's very critical so I can get going on the mower to get everything out of the way and move chairs and all of that. And he's the best.
Yeah.
Patrick, did you work with Bob during the pandemic last summer? I'm trying to remember. Or Bob, did you even have most of your crew back by then?
A little bit, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a blur, but I think
Yeah.
he was in and out.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to distinguish the years. It's crazy
It
with
is
this
crazy.
COVID, but he's been one of the mainstays, without a doubt.
How you guys managed to keep together all the our landscaping clients? How many do you have now, Bob? I maybe ask some questions that
Well, we do the NuPath houses, which
Yeah.
seems to be 16 or 17. We probably have about 10 customer, people like you and I.
Yeah.
And that varies where people move or whatever, or they have their children cut the lawn. So it varies.
Yeah.
So, that adds up to like,
That's a lot.
yeah.
High season, that's a lot of grass to cut, a lot of plates to pick up, and debris and sticks. Patrick, you know what? Many, many, many years ago, I found out that Bob Hunter had developed a little custom with his landscaping crew that after the season was over, after you got everything done, the last cleanups, there was something special that you would do. And I found out that Bob was doing this, and I said, you know what, NuPath should pick up the tab for that. Patrick, do you know what I'm talking about? What's the season end with? Something special that you guys do?
We do lunch. We do the China Moon.
The China Moon. Is that a Chinese buffet?
Yeah.
in Stoneham.
Yeah.
Became a victim of the COVID, but we found a new place over in Malden, and Patrick and I went there. And what did you have, Patrick? Did you had a big plate of
pork fried rice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite?
That's my favorite. Yeah.
Pork fried rice. Yeah, there weren't very many buffets around during the pandemic, so that could have put a damper on your celebration in that way. Because you used to have a big crew of guys that would go out, and then
Yes.
you were part of anything during the course of the summer working, then got to be participate in it.
Yes, I think for a number of years we had 5, 6, 7 guys come to the buffet, and we even had it twice a year. And I would kind of tell everybody, we're going to have the China Moon buffet, and we have to work hard to earn that. It just wasn't kind of a given.
Yeah.
But everybody showed up.
Bob, in the couple of minutes I've left with you, I just want to spend a little time talking about your service to NuPath in a more generic kind of a way. You go back far enough to remember, I think, some of the new staff orientation and the mission training. I don't know if you actually remember the trainings, but you were a part of my trainings for many years. I don't know if you knew that, but it all stemmed from the time you went fishing with Kevin over at Horn Pond. I think that's where you were. And were your sons involved in that? And somehow they had come back or for visit, or they were there. And you sent me a picture. I knew you were going, and you sent me a picture. You guys holding this fish. You want to tell us about that story? When was that? Do you remember?
Yes, it was at Horn Pond, and my son was in California. My other son lives locally. So Kevin and I would go fishing at Horn Pond. And this particular day, he caught this enormous trout. And one of my sons was there. And I said to Kevin, gee, it's too bad, we caught this fish a little early. My other son's going to be here in 5 minutes. Lo and behold, my son shows up all the way from California, hops out of the car, comes running down, and Kevin catches another big fish. And I think I sent you a picture of fish number
You
2.
did.
And it was like magic. And I kind of prayed for it. I said, can we catch another fish? And here we go. So, and
Yeah, it's
I don't think
incredible.
we've ever caught 2 fish in a day since.
Well, I'm trying to dig up that picture. We'll see if we can find it to put up on the screen later on. But you said that to me, and it just lifted my spirits. I was so thrilled by that. And we were talking. I don't know if you remember, but at the time, our message was we talked about making a difference in people's lives. One person, one action, one day. And I used the story of you taking Kevin fishing because it was a small thing. It was in a way, it was the giving of yourself, of your time, in a way that meant something, really special. Here we are all these years still talking about it. So talk about a fisherman's tale. And then, over the years, just in your own quiet way, you're never the type to be, you know, posturing or looking for pats on the back. You just one of these guys. You like to fly under the radar. Just do your job, do it well, and yet I'm so appreciated the way you keep contact with me. And you recently, I think we mentioned you on NuPath Live, did we? When you texted me that you'd gotten your booster shot, and I think that was
Yep.
you. Memories, and I love that you feel that you can maintain your connections with me. I just appreciate you and all you do for NuPath. Thank you so much, Bob and Patrick, for being here today and for talking with us. Thank you, Bob, for your fundraising prowess and for and making the Super Bowl count for NuPath. And we look forward to seeing how much you're going to raise this year. This will be great, gentlemen.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Take good care. Thanks so much for being here today. Bye, Patrick.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was great, guys. Thanks to our guests today. I want to use the last few minutes that I have with you to talk about Black history. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is a old white guy, a CEO of NuPath, know about Black history? And to be honest, I probably know far less than I should. But I dedicated some time to kind of doing some reading and some research, and I thought, let me find one character, one person from a historical person that I can feel some connection with. And I found somebody that I've become just enthralled with in the reading that I've done about her. And I'd like to introduce you to her. Her name is Phyllis Wheatley, and she lived from 1753 to 1784, and in fact ended up in Boston, but born in West Africa. And I felt some connection because I too was born in West Africa. But she was sold into slavery when she was just 7 years old. The records show that she was brought to Boston on July 11th in 1761 on a slave ship called the Phyllis, and sold to a wealthy Boston merchant named John Wheatley. And so I'm thinking about the 7-year-old girl, and I'm thinking what it must have meant for her to be sold into slavery. And I thought, let's take a look at what the slave trade was really all about. So we're going to do a little kind of background and think about what was going on about that time. So about the time that Phyllis would have been put on a ship brought to the United States, it would have been around 1760. And although the records are somewhat unclear as to what country she originated from, it was probably Senegal. Senegal is not that far north of Sierra Leone. So if you see where Senegal is on the map there, it would have been just below that. And so many of these people were kidnapped and taken enslaved from their villages, and they had to march for days or weeks. And I know the terrain of that country, very mountainous and hilly and full of very difficult brush and difficult terrain. I can't imagine a 7-year-old girl having to walk to the coast. But once there, and many of these people, by the way, had never seen the ocean, never been on a ship, but they were chained together, crammed into these tiny hulls, and and with sewage and all kinds of other unpleasant things. Between 1500 and 1866, Europeans transported nearly 12.5 million Africans to the Americas. And these were the colonial powers that were trying to get manpower to the sugar plantations of the Caribbean and to sustain the Portuguese colonies in Brazil and the Spanish colonies in South America and the United States and the cotton trade of the South and into Europe, some of them. You know, the journey was 7 weeks long and at best. And I was thinking, we were all groaning when Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow and we thought another 6 weeks of winter. Imagine being in a stinky ship for 7 weeks. They say that as many as 25% of the passenger cargo did not survive the trip, dying of dehydration, malnutrition, diseases, dysentery, measles, scurvy, smallpox, just the injuries they had obtained. And many Africans were known to throw themselves over into the water to kill themselves rather than endure the indignity. Experts believe that from 1501 to 1866, this is pretty much what's considered to be the height of the slave trade, 20 million people were forced to leave the African continent. And do you know that that would account for roughly half the population of Africa enslaved and taken away? And here's the thing. It's all to promote the commerce and to the economies of these growing colonial powers and the colonists. And the equivalent, the slave in those days would cost the equivalent of today, in today's money, would be between $40,000 and $50,000. So that'd be like buying some expensive piece of farm equipment or so it was a big investment of the white colonial powers. And it makes me sick to just even think about anybody coming into a life that was lived that way, and to think about this girl, Phyllis Wheatley. Let's go back to her story, though. So this is a little girl that was taken away from her family, traveled 3,000 miles, and getting her name from that ship. Can you imagine the rest of your life carrying the name of the ship that brought you from your home? Last name for the man that purchased her. Now, she was one of the lucky ones because the Wheatleys were benevolent and noticed this girl had amazing potential and got her education. By the age of 12, she had was able to read and write English, and also with classical Latin and Greek. Wrote her first poem when she was 13. And by the age of 14, her poems had begun to appear in certain newspapers and periodicals in the U.S. You know, the white people of the time could not believe it was possible for an African slave to write that kind of poetry, and she was required to defend her authorship of her poems. There was a whole panel of influential thinkers and politicians of Boston who were given the task of determining whether or not she had indeed written them herself, and they did, in the end, attribute them to her. Her poetry collections, titled Poems on Various Subjects, Religions, and Moral, she asked when she had her book published, she was the first African American to be published, the first U.S. slave to be published, and only the third American woman to have her work published ever. Talk about success. Her publications made her famous in both England and the American colonies. In fact, she's known to have sent a poem to George Washington titled "To His Excellently George Washington." Washington, in his style of self-deprecating humor, however undeserving I may be of such encomium, I knew how to pronounce that before. These are old words that mean political, praise and grandiose kind of presentation. The style and manner exhibit a striking proof of your great poetical talents, much more poetical than my speeches right now. She was invited the following year to visit Washington at his headquarters in Cambridge. That meeting took place in March of 1776. One quote in my research that I really liked, it says, "In every human beast, God has implanted a principle which we call love of freedom. It is impatient of oppression and pants for deliverance. 11 miles from here, in this fair city we call Boston, our south, is a beautiful statue that if you've never been, you should make a day trip or a half-day trip of it. And that is the Boston Women's Memorial. It is really a striking and beautiful place. It's on the Commonwealth Avenue Mall, and there is a statue of Phyllis Wheatley, one of 3 women of the Boston Women's Memorial, Lucy Stone and Abigail Adams being the other 2. It was dedicated in October of 2003, and it was said these 3 women share a strong sense of Boston identity, a place of national history, a passion for social justice, and the ability to inspire and impact people. Phyllis Wheatley, we are grateful to know you. Thank you for instilling the values that we still hold today dear. And I'll say this as the CEO of NuPath, may we forever remember your bravery and sacrifice and carry forward the principles that God has implanted within each of us. As she says, the love of freedom, the patience with oppression, and the panting for deliverance. Black History Month is more than just talking about Black people, but really remembering the sacrifices and the trials and the tribulations that so many experience and how much they've given to all of us. We got this, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.